What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of The Jump, a week one recap for you all. It was a special day. This I've said for a while is the best week one of all time, and we're just now getting started. We have two incredible games tomorrow, or today if you're watching this on Sunday, but we have South Carolina, Virginia Tech. We have Catholics versus Convicts, Notre Dame, Miami. Those are both going to be incredible games. And then Monday night we have Bill Belichick's first game in college as North Carolina faces off against a great, fun TCU team. We're just getting started, but I'm here to talk about a little bit of what happened Saturday because there was a lot that went on, and there's so much that we need to discuss. So, it was an amazing day. Started out with a massive emotional swing all morning. I wake up, so I'm on Eastern time, New York time zone, so I wake up at 8:30, get ready for game day at 9. 9 to 12, there's just a different, all the emotions were flowing. There was me reminiscing, like just on what Lee Corso was for me as a kid. There was when Chris Fowler went back on there, and they just started reminiscing about their old times. And then there was the clips from the Lee Corso documentary that was also an incredible documentary. There were all of these things all morning where it was like, man, like you just want to smile because of like being glad it happened. Or there was the array of emotions where it was just so sad because you're like, man, my childhood is gone. My childhood as a college football fan is gone. Like I saw the Simpsons meme so many times on Twitter where it was like him putting on Brutus for the first time as a kid, and then Homer Simpson, older, turns it off, and it's him current day putting on Brutus. So, the face of college football. That's what he is to me. He is the face of college football. He's not just some commentator or something that people just know the voice of. People know his face, know his tradition. They have all these memories of what Lee Corso is to this sport, and he's just represented it to a T. He's never failed to say what he feels. He doesn't try to step on toes, but he will. He's just full of joy, full of laughter, full of just fun. That's what he is. The quote of where the entertainment business and football is our vehicle or something, like that is what he does. That is him to a T. So that's why this episode I'm doing this. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm doing it with the pencil in hand for Lee Corso. What he has meant to me, it can't be put into words. He is an absolute icon, legend. There's really no words that can describe what Lee Corso has meant to me as a college football fan. And I did hear it put this way. Josh Pate, the legend Josh Pate, had said Lee Corso played from 1953 to 1957. Then he coached from 58 to 85. And then I wonder what he would have thought if you would have told him that his most impactful days were still ahead of him. What he was on College Game Day was second to none. What he meant for this sport, the traction that he brought this sport is absolutely incredible. And so hats off to Lee Corso. So many emotions, so many smiles, and man, I cried a little bit this morning. There was a big lump in my throat, and it was just, there was a lot. There was just a lot, man. It was so sad. The Mutant Ninja Turtles, like that meme of all of them walking with him and him guiding them, and then them walking him, guiding him down his last few paths. Like that's what this means. That's exactly what this is. Yeah, it was perfect. It was perfect in every way. He ended with Brutus. He says, "Give me my first love," talking about Brutus. So it was perfect. Everything was phenomenal. The final Lee Corso game day. And then it was followed by a great game, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But the one thing with Lee Corso, this man went out with the massive bang. So the face of college football goes out, picking his alma mater as a 14.5-point underdog. They win. But not only them, every single team that Lee Corso coached or played for won their game today. Florida State wins 31-17. Maryland wins 39-7. Navy wins 52-7. Louisville wins 51-17. Indiana wins 27-14. Northern Illinois wins 19-17. it was meant to be. This was an absolute dream come true. This was amazing. It couldn't have gone better. So hats off to Lee Corso. Not so fast, my friend. One last time. He is just one of one. Absolute legend. Icon. Thank you, Lee Corso. So moving on to the games of today, I'll just start out with a bang. So this will be chronological order out of these games that I'll kind of hone in on for this one. So we'll start out with the game of today. College Game Day was there. Fox was there. The whole nine. Number 1, Texas at number 3, Ohio State. The final was 14-7 Buckeyes. And this was, there's a billion thoughts on this game. So I think the biggest problem this offseason is everybody focused on what Ohio State lost and not what they still had. Returning what they did was unreal, and it really shined today, where a lot of the returners were the standouts defensively. In this Ohio State defense, I said all week, look, I was wrong. Takes a man to own it. I thought Texas was going to win this because of their defense. Ohio State wins this because of their defense. Ohio State has probably the best defense in the country after watching today. Absolutely unreal performance. They looked just unreal, start to finish. 14-7, and the 7 was late. So if you want to say 14-0 was really the score, it was just a dominant performance for them. Arch Manning is obviously the talk of the town. Now, I'm not ready to give up yet because I'm a very big prisoner of the moment type of person, but I'm not letting this one get me yet just because there were flashes. So Arch Manning was obviously terrible in the first half. I've also never seen quite the takeover of one player on social media the way that it was with Arch Manning today. Like the universal hate for that man was crazy, but it was not even to his fault. It was just the media, the way the media hyped the man up. They had like a full hype video for him before the game. I still think this man is right here. So I'm buying all the stock while it's low. He did not look good in the first half, even most of the third. But they had to open it up, and Sarkisian coached this game like Arch was some 3-star quarterback that he was forced into playing. It felt like he put the training wheels on him. I saw somebody say that on Twitter. Playing the game with the training wheels on him was just insane. This man, I remember at halftime, I don't remember who all was talking about it, but they were like, let Arch just go. Let him, I think it might have been Matt Leinart, was like, I expect him to start running it a lot. He runs it quite a bit in the second half. He creates plays, makes big-time plays, big-time situations. So they kind of opened it up a little bit. But Sarkisian coached this game scared in the first half. It was terrible. So that's a big part of why Arch was bad. Now, the one interception was horrendous. There are no other words for it. Horrendous, terrible throw, anything you can say bad. It was an awful throw. That was really bad. Now, the Ryan Wingo throw that he should have caught, that one was also bad. That one should probably be caught though. That's just the man just kept trying to make plays. He never gave up on a play. Even the final play for Texas in the game, the throw to the tight end, even that was pretty good. This whole game, Arch Manning was obviously the talk of the world. Yeah, he didn't end up playing great, but I don't think that just knocks this man out of the Heisman, because if you're telling me a game where he had what were his numbers? What did he end up with? Arch Manning's just numbers being okay, so he ended up with 1 touchdown, 170 yards, 17 for 30, while running it 10 times for 38 yards. If you're telling me that game is going to be what keeps him out of a Heisman race if he plays the rest of the season really good, I mean, you've got another thing coming. This man is not out of the Heisman race. That's the level I still expect him to play at all year. What he was able to do against what I'm now saying might be the best defense in college football, what he was still able to do once the playbook felt opened up was extremely impressive. Now, Ohio State's defense, Matt Patricia called one heck of a game. That defense was terrifying. It just felt like every single play, which this is always the test of good defenses, from off the rip on any drive, even when they're scripted, there's 6 guys there to tackle them. The plays are just completely blown up, off rip. There was just nothing Texas could do to get the game rolling for them. Like Baxter ended up running for 40 yards. Wisner ran for 80. Neither of them got in. But it was just dominance. That's the only way to put it. C.J. Donaldson, the West Virginia transfer for Ohio State, he balled out, 67 yards and a touchdown. James Peoples looked good. Julian Sand did exactly what they needed for him. 13 for 20, 126 and a touchdown. No picks. They really just need him to be a game manager, and that's exactly what he was. So, speaking of Julian Sand, though, he broke the streak. There had been a streak of 18 straight losses by a new starter in their first game against the number one team in their first start. So, he broke that streak. Ohio State had also lost these games in the past, little bit, these type of games where out of conference in the shoe, they've lost to Oklahoma, they've lost to Oregon, Virginia Tech. They've lost these games throughout the years. Not this one. This one's different. So I remember there was once a time that Ryan Day was known as the guy that couldn't win the big one, and here we are. So this is absolutely incredible to see Ohio State not skip a beat. You can't even say that they're back because it just feels like they never left. Obviously, they lost a generational team, but what they brought back is second to none. And that's a big part of why they were able to do this. So I haven't even mentioned Jeremiah Smith's name, the best offensive player in college football. He ended up with 6 catches, 43 yards, much better than the semifinal game against Texas. But Carnell Tate is the one that I want to mention. He only had 2 catches, 49 yards, but he had the 40-yard touchdown. That is the difference of just the dudes on these rosters. The leading receiver was Jack Andrews for Texas. Parker Livingstone had the only touchdown. Big touchdown play. It was 39 yards. Ryan Wingo only ended up with 2 catches. DeAndre Moore, 2 catches. There just aren't weapons. There's not. Maybe these guys develop into something throughout the year, and obviously more games will just help that over time. But Ohio State just had dudes, and that's what it comes down to. Jimmies and Joes over X's and O's at a certain point. When X's and O's are just colliding, the dudes stand out. That's exactly what happened for Ohio State. So the Buckeyes roll, and there's a good chance that they're the new number 1 next week. And now, I don't think that means Texas should not have been 1. I think that defense is still going to do incredible things all year. I mean, they still held that offense to 14 points. That's incredible. So I think both these teams are going to be legit all year, both title contenders. This game, I think there's a lot of prisoner in the moments in the week 1 overreactions where they're like, oh man, Texas maybe it just isn't that good. That's just not the case. Same with Arch Manning. I think both of those, they'll be fine. Arch Manning will end up having a good year. Texas will have a good year. But the Buckeyes, massive, massive win in Columbus. And they won it for Lee. Julian Sand said after the game, shout out Lee Corso. So that was super cool to see. This was a blast of a game. I hope these type of games happen more often because I think now with the 12-team playoff, it doesn't hurt as much to lose a regular season game. So it feels like these scheduling, these games, Oklahoma, Michigan next week will be awesome. These type of games might happen more often where teams aren't just scared to start the year with a big one. Moving on from that one, this one is the 3:30 time slot. This is another one I just have to spend a lot of time on. Number 8, Alabama goes to Florida State. And man, I don't want to say we've seen the end of Bama, but this does not feel like Alabama. That A and just the crimson helmets do not feel quite the same. We'll just put it that way. Florida State wins 31-17. And the score doesn't even do it justice. There was, in every single way possible that you can get beat in football, Florida State did it. There was no energy, no dominance factor from Alabama, where Alabama used to set the tone. Now, obviously, this is Nick Saban that I'm referring to, but there were 2 straight decades almost of Alabama setting the tone, dominating, and making opponents play the way that they want to play those games. Florida State just bossed them around. Offensively, defensively, special teams. They even, with 1:56 left, off the shin punt, gives Bama the ball. Bama does nothing with it. Now, Ty Simpson, he may not be the answer. I know that that's not a hot take at all because they went, obviously he wasn't going to start over Bryce Young, but there were 2 different years under 2 different coaching staffs that both said Ty Simpson's not better than Jalen Milroe. And I don't know if that even will end up being true. This guy plays with all of the heart in the world. I do know that much. There's just no. Every time that would pan to the sideline and you see Kalen DeBoer, it was just like the soul is like sucked out of this program. I don't know what it is. But there's just like I said, there's every way in football that you can get beat. Alabama got beat. Jeremy Bernard was a big light for Alabama. I will put that out there. He needs to be just respect for Jeremy Bernard, because Ryan Williams is obviously Ryan Williams. He's going to do what he's going to do. He had a couple bad drops in this game, but he still played pretty well. But Jeremy Bernard was like the only spark in the second half, which is also partial to Ryan Williams because he's taking the distractions. There was even one where Ryan Williams was just like a clear out route for, it might have been just a hook or something for Jeremy Bernard, but he literally was like running and he saw the corner just go with him and he just pointed and it was like throwing it to Jeremy Bernard. It's like Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams will be very good for this Alabama team this year. And with Ryan Grubb back, I expect this offense to be a lot better. But it literally felt like it was just rinse and repeat. They'd put Cuevas in motion. He would just be in motion. They'd snap it when he gets behind like a guard, and he'd just be pinning down to block somebody, and then nothing would happen. Now, they did pop up the stats of like Ty Simpson under pressure. I think when they popped up the stat, he was like 1 for 8 on throws when under pressure and like 10 for 13 or something when not under pressure. That's just the recipe right there. Alabama used to dominate on the offensive line. They are supposed to have like arguably the best offensive lineman. I think it's Spencer Fano of Utah, but Caden Proctor is supposed to be one of the best offensive linemen in the country, and he got bullied on certain plays. They also held a lot. This Alabama offensive line was just nowhere near where it's supposed to be. This Alabama team, just like I said, there's just no like drive in them. There's nothing. Big shout out to Gus Malzahn. Obviously, he has a little history with Alabama being at Auburn for so long. He called an absolutely incredible game, I thought. They opened up the playbook and they held nothing back, and almost everything worked. Everything was called at the perfect time, it felt like. It was just an incredible game. So big shout out to Gus Malzahn. He also tweeted after the game, felt like old times tonight. Crazy for him to go straight to Twitter, but that's college football right there. But the big story, Tommy Castellanos backed up all the talk. He said Nick Saban is not there to save them, and that was the truth. Kalen DeBoer and this staff could not get it done, and it was just sad to see. But here we are. Tommy Castellanos backed it all up. I was a doubter. I posted a TikTok about it, and the comments went crazy, and they're like, well, Bama's going to beat them by 1,000. This ain't the same Bama, sadly. Alabama had won 23 straight season openers. Not anymore. It's an insane stat that's broken, but two other stats are much crazier. Alabama now, in their last 10 games, they are 5-5. That is not Alabama standard by any means, but this is the stat. Brett McMurphy put out a stat that said, since 2007, when Alabama was favored by 14 or more, like I said, there were 14.5 in this one. When Alabama was favored by 14 or more, Nick Saban was 131-2. Kalen DeBoer is 4-4 when favored by 14 or more. That is Alabama football in 2025. It is absolutely insane, the fall from grace that we've seen. It's unreal what has happened. I wish we could get a full read on Saban's thoughts right now, because I can't even imagine what's going through his head with how much he had built up. And I know that standard that he had held is impossible, but what the standard was to how fast it's fallen is absolutely mind-blowing to me. We also had a tweet from Bruce Pearl that was just the Gus bus with Gus Malzahn in it, driving over an Alabama Crimson Tide over at Elephant. So Auburn is just feeling themselves, because I also enjoyed watching those guys the other night against Baylor. They were actually fun. And speaking of Auburn, I do have a prisoner of the moment prediction. Now, like I said, prisoner of the moment prediction. Don't hold me to this. But as of right now, I think the Auburn Tigers might beat Alabama Crimson Tide in the Iron Bowl, and Kalen DeBoer gets fired that night. The night of the Iron Bowl loss to Auburn, Kalen DeBoer gets fired that night. That's my prediction as a prisoner of the moment. Don't hold me to it, but that's what I'm going with right now. Moving on from that one. The game of the nightcap, sadly the Fox noon kickoff, they had to steal the thunder of 1 versus 3, but we got number 9 at number 4. 17-10 LSU Tigers. The Battle of Death Valley, the game where TJ Parker said, we'll see about it, on August 30th when Death Valley Jr. was stated by Brian Kelly when he called it Death Valley Jr. and was talking crazy about it. Here we are. LSU had lost 5 straight season openers. That's now broken. They're 1-0 for the first time since 2019. LSU has a defense again, which is incredible. They haven't had a defense since the 2019 team probably. And it's not even just a defense. These guys are covering, applying pressure, getting pressure up the middle, forcing Cade around, still covering guys on the secondary freestyle routes. This defense was all over the field, all over the place. So this defense was absolutely incredible. But big hats off to the offense as well, because this is a front 7 of Clemson that will be a top 3 in the country probably all year. In that offense, they only scored 17. They really scored 24. Barryon Brown's touchdown got absolutely robbed. It's like a 100% approval rate on that actually being a touchdown on the line, which is very, very rare. But everybody on the line's like, that was definitely a touchdown. So that's just whack. But 17 points on this Clemson defense on the road in Death Valley is crazy. That Garrett Nussmeier just outplayed Cade Klubnik. Cade Klubnik did not play bad by any stretch of the imagination, but not where he should be. He ended up with 19 for 38, 230, and an interception. Now, some of that, there was just a lot of, Antonio Williams, obviously he left the game very early. Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore were good. Tyler Brown was all right. There was just there weren't a ton of options for him to. Like I said, they applied pressure very early. It felt like they sacked him every other play there for a stretch. So this defense of LSU was just dominant. Clemson led early and got shut out in the second half, and that's a lot of Cade Klubnik. And after the game, you could see him patting his chest saying, that's my fault, all this stuff. I still think Cade Klubnik will be a Heisman contender, but like I said, takes a man to admit when he's wrong. I was wrong about this one. I thought Clemson had this one for sure, but LSU is on the right side of these season openers for the first time in a little bit. So, like I said, Garrett Nussmeier, they both ended up with 230, but Garrett's was much more efficient. 28 for 38 and a touchdown, no interceptions. And he balled. Caden Durham played really good. The run game was much better for LSU. So this game was just the trenches, I think, for the most part, because this is a LSU team that I was so worried about the O-line because they had to replace so much on it, and they absolutely they impressed big time. Yeah, like I said, the Barryon Brown touchdown isn't even on here, but Aaron Anderson played out of his mind. Jawan Johnson played well. This team is just stacked. Like I said, the receiver room is just mind-blowing to me. And this LSU team, legit title contender. And it's another one. It's not his team by any means, but Lee Corso was talking so highly of LSU and has them winning the national championship, and they also win on the day that it's his last. So it was so cool to see. But like I said, the Barryon Brown touchdown, you getting that called back when it was 10-10 then, I think. Yeah, I think it was 10-10. They go to kick the field goal, miss the field goal, and still respond, come back and score a touchdown. After that, it's incredible. And that's the culture. So the big overwhelming thing among all these games is the culture. The culture at Alabama is terrible. Tommy Castellanos said he wants to come to Florida State, rebuild the culture and the swag that Florida State's supposed to have. He's done that already. Texas and Ohio State, those kind of cancel out. Cultures are perfectly fine. Sark's got to open up the playbook more for Arch, in my opinion. But LSU, the culture to not give up there. Clemson will be obviously very, very good all year. They'll rack up a ton of wins in the ACC, and they'll be in the playoff and everything. But this game doesn't make me dislike Clemson by any means. Now, I did think they were going to go undefeated. I thought they'd go undefeated and be the overall 1 seed and just kind of cruise their way to the 1 seed. But here we are. Now they've got to battle back. And, I mean, I don't know what they'll be when the polls come out. They'll probably be 8 or 9, somewhere around there. Nothing too crazy. But, yeah, it's a wild time with so many good games. And like I said, there's so many good games coming up soon. But that'll kind of do it for the big ones. Now, I'll run through some of the other scores of games, and then we'll get up out of here. I just wanted to hop on and do like a reaction podcast. So we'll go through some of the ranked teams. Arizona State is currently up 31-13 against Northern Arizona. Penn State rolled against Nevada. I believe this was a scoregami, 46-11. That game was really, really fun. It was the running backs really were the big thing with it. The run game ended up with 135 yards. Grunkemeyer came in and played well for Penn State. So even when Drew Allar, he was 22 for 26, extremely efficient, 217 and a touchdown with him. But the transfers, man, Kyron Hudson, 6 catches, 89 yards and a touchdown. And then Trevor Pena, 7 catches, 74 yards. So both of those guys ended up balling out. So Penn State looked very good as the number 2 team in the country. Georgia killed Marshall. This was like one of the best offensive performances they've had early on. They beat Marshall 45-7. Gunnar Stockton looked pretty good. Ryan Puglisi, he came in, looked solid. The game was kind of over at that point. But, Gunnar Stockton ended up with 190, 2 touchdowns, and then 73 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns as well. Zach Branch looked great. He had big plays. Only ended up with 3 catches, but he looked good for him, and that looks like he's going to be a spark that they need. Oregon, they did not have a slow start like they did last year, even though the Oregon Ducks mascot head fell off, so it was kind of a bad omen. But they come out, they beat Montana State 59-13 in dominant fashion. Michigan dominates 34-17. This one, there wasn't a whole lot to it. Bryce Underwood looked pretty good. Justice Haynes had a really good game. That was kind of the big takeaway. I think he ended up with like 3 touchdowns. Florida beat Long Island 55-0. This was just dominance. It was, DJ Lagway ended up playing only like a half, 120 and 3 touchdowns. But Jaden Ball, 9 carries, 104 yards. This kid is electric. He was very good last year. I enjoy watching Jaden Ball play. SMU won 42-13 in dominant game. Kansas State, they were a big favorite and ended up only winning this one 38-35, sneaking out a win here. So if you're Kansas State, I don't know if you're hitting the panic button yet, but you might be. John Mateer, this was absolutely electric. 30 for 37, 392, and 3 touchdowns, with also 1 rushing. This man balled out. It was so cool to see John Mateer get to Oklahoma and ball out. Obviously, he hasn't played real competition. They beat Illinois State, but seeing him ball out at Oklahoma already in game 1 was awesome. Texas A&M played in a close one for a little bit, but they ended up winning 42-24 against UTSA. Marcel Reed looked very good in this one. Ended up with 39 rushing yards, 289 passing yards, and 4 touchdowns, no picks. This was the one I was looking for. Mario Craver was the standout. I was big on Casey Concepcion coming into the year, obviously. Very talented guy, but Mario Craver was the big talk, the sophomore. He had 122 yards, 2 touchdowns. So watch out for Craver this year, I guess. Indiana sneaks out a win, a 27-14 victory versus Old Dominion. Fernando Mendoza's first game with the Hoosiers played pretty well, but the Indiana rushing was the thing. 309 yards. The three-headed monster of Roman Hemby, Kalen Black, and Lee Beebe dominated, and then Fernando Mendoza racked 33 on top of what those guys had. 309 rushing is just crazy. Good win for the Hoosiers. Ole Miss slows down, not at all. 63-7 against Georgia State. Austin Simmons, first game, 20 for 31, 341, 3 touchdowns. And yeah, this whole team, the receiving core looked really good. Austin Simmons is gonna be special. I'm excited for that kid. So he's gonna be a blast this year. Iowa State won 55-7. Rocco Beck had an insanely efficient game. What did he end up? 19 of 20, 278 and 3 touchdowns. Yeah, dude's just special. Good start to the year for the Cyclones. Texas Tech, even through the delay, ended up dominating, win 67-7. They ended up playing 3 quarterbacks in this game. Baron Morton was 16 for 18, 201 and 4 touchdowns, so it was extremely efficient. But yeah, they just have just a fun receiver core out there in Lubbock for the Raiders. And then lastly, I didn't talk about this one yet, but this was one that I wanted to mention. This is a noon kickoff, so not a ton of people watched it because of the other game. But Tennessee, 45-26. It really wasn't that close. The score looks a little bit closer than what it actually was, but these boys, Joey Aguilar was 16 for 28, 247, 3 touchdowns. But Star Thomas, Deshaun Bishop, the running game is back. These boys played really well. The receiver core was good, but the defense was absolutely insane. The diving pick that one guy had off the tip pass or whatever, the scoop and score, this team looked so good. Yeah, I mean, I guess they only ended up scoring 12, but it was 31-14 and a half. So the brakes were kind of being touched there. The foot was taken off the gas for sure. But what a fun day so far. What a fun Saturday. I mean, last night I didn't mention it. We're like Thursday night, South Florida beat Boise 34-7. And then the Auburn game was a blast. That game was so much fun. And then Georgia Tech, big win on the road at Colorado last night too. So week 1 has been absolute cinema. And like I said, we're only halfway through. Like, we've got Sunday's games that are going to be awesome at 3 o'clock and 7:30. And then Monday night, we'll have a great game Monday. So I think that'll just about do it for this reaction to week 1. Hope you all enjoyed the games. I know I did. Thank you, Lee Corso. Thank you again for everything. Absolute legend, trailblazer of the media and sports media just in general. So a big-time motivation to me, many others, and yeah, not so fast, my friend. One last time. Thank you, Lee. With that being said, I'm out of here. So I don't know if I'll do a reaction podcast. I'll probably do a reaction podcast if some of the games are worthy of it. So if tomorrow's games are crazy, I'll probably try to do a reaction podcast. If not, I'll be in throughout the week at some point, talking about the games, talking about what we have next week, because next week's going to be a lot of fun too. College football is officially back. We're here. The NFL starts this week. I'm not as big into the NFL as I'm in college, but a lot of people like the NFL more than college, so I know that gets a lot of people geeked. Football's back officially. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great rest of your weekend, or if you're watching this throughout the week, have a great week. Peace.